this is my tree asset for the radioactive theme that I am creating. Uh, so first I placed in a cylinder, stretched it up, did that. I wanted to create like the stem of the tree, so I for creating this asset I needed to watch a tutorial because I had no idea how to create a tree. So doing this I was like following multiple videos on how to do it. So for the first one I stretched it down into like a tree stem, and then with the cylinder I went into the channel box layer editor and went into the inputs, and for the subdivisions axes I made it to 12 because for this tree model I didn't need that much faces to work with. Then once that was done I went to the bottom of the cylinder and I deleted the bottom faces because again I didn't need the bottom faces and it would have been like a waste of detail. And then with the top faces I went on the edge mode and I deleted each face, each edge. So I deleted this edge, then capped an edge and deleted an edge, giving me this sort of shape. Then I went into front view and went into like this is my first time using this tool, so I went into curve tool, then EP curve tool, and this is how I was going to create like the curves and like branches for the tree. And this is basically what I did for the whole tree model. So with that tool I selected here, then here, then here, given like a curve, then here, like here. Then once that, like, this would basically be the tree, so once that was created in front view I needed to go into the side view because in the front view it looks curved, but you go into the perspective it's like a straight line because you're only doing this in front view. So I needed it to go into side, see like right here in perspective it's like straight, so I needed to curve this in side view. I think yeah, so in side view I needed to press on the vertices and like stretch it outwards and inwards, giving me this sort of shape. So once that was done I selected the faces on the stem and then selected the tree curve and then did extrude E, giving me this, which was like very straight because I had no divisions. So I made the divisions to 25, giving me the curve, but it wasn't like a tree because it wasn't like it was the same width going all the way through. So I went on to channel box layer editor and went to 0.03. So I did. Then once I did that, it gave me this like it started getting smaller like when it went up. So since I was done with that branch, I went on to delete all by type history because I wouldn't need to edit that anymore. Okay, so from here I just needed to create the branches on the tree. So using the seam curve tool I created this, and for some reason the pivot wasn't on the curves, so I had to go to modify to center the pivot, which allowed me to like move it easier. So to create the branches from the original tree, I selected these four faces. To do this, I had more edge loops to be able to select these faces. Then once they were selected, I went to Edit Mesh, Circleize. Once I circularized it, it gave me this like circular thing, which was perfect because for creating branches. So once I did that, I selected the faces and then selected the curve 2 at the same time, and then did extrude, then the same thing, divisions 21. I could have went more, but I didn't need to because 21 was enough, and if I just did more divisions I would add extra faces that I wouldn't need. For this I made the taper 0.1. I did this through the whole way, so it was the exact same thing. It just took a lot of time to get right. So this is my tree right now with all the branches done. From here I did a new tool, so to do this I selected all my faces at the bottom here, and then I just pressed B and it gave me like a part that I could decrease or increase, so I scaled all the way up here so I'd only be like modeling this part and instead of the branches, because I only needed to model this part. And then from there I was able to move this part down without interfering with this part, with the top part of the tree. It would only interfere with this part. This is my first time using the tool and like very handy. Once I created, because like what I was trying to do was create the bottom part of the tree, so I selected the faces, moved it here with like an angle, so you can see that here I like just made more of like an angle. Then once that was done, I selected all the bottom faces and extruded outwards to give me like the stem of the tree. Then now is that done. Now I just needed to create the roots, which was the exact same thing as creating the branches. So circleize, place it, then divisions, then the taper 0.2. Then I did that throughout the whole way of the tree, giving me the roots. Here I did something different, so I just created a wee small thing, and then at the top I selected the faces and extruded inwards then downwards to give me like a, you know, like trees have those parts, giving me like that shape. So this is what the tree was looking like right now. This is only meant to be like a dead tree, so it had no leaves, but I will be adding more branches later to make it look more of like a dead tree. Um, Before I went into UV editor, I was inspecting the tree and I found like some mesh glitches. So I fixed that by selecting the edges and doing fill hole and going into vertice mode and like pulling it together, which fixed it. Here I was adding more roots to make it look more realistic. This is what the tree looked like. So yeah, UV editor. So I did the same thing as I did on my nuke barrel. I went into the UV shade to see which was working and which was not, and you can see most of it was red, so I definitely needed to do a lot of work here. So with create, I went on to UV editor, create, and then did planner, giving me this shape. So you can see more of it was blue and working, but most of it was still wouldn't work. So I needed to use the 3D cut and sew tool. So with this, I cut every branch. So I cut this branch. I did it with this one here, so all around, giving me this, and cutting this. So each branch I cut all around. So yeah, this was done by using the 3D cut and sew tool. And then once I cut all the branches, I needed to cut the whole tree in half. So when I go to like a layout, it would work perfectly. So once I had all that cut, I moved every part of the tree in the UV editor to like a separate spot to organize. Then with the main tree stem, I selected all the vertices. So I didn't select the other branches, just like the main tree thing body. And then here I did um, here I did unfold. So I pressed the unfold button on the UV toolkit, which gave me this sort of shape. And then here I put the mode on to see if the texture would fit. This is like the test if it would be stretching, the texture would be stretching or not. and at the bottom it was like stretching here, it was like a bit glitchy. So what I did here was like, it was alright, but I needed to, for it to be like perfect, I needed to do something about it. So with the 3D cut tool, I split them in half, like here, here, and here, because the circle icons was like breaking the texture a wee bit. So I cut them and then did fold again, which gave me this shape, which made the textures a bit better, but it still wasn't good. And so to fix this, I did unfold again, which unfolds this again, which give me this. And when I did this, it was perfect. There was no glitches. It was perfect. So that was that part done. And so the rest was, all the branches was actually, luckily enough, all the branches on the thing was perfect. So I selected all of the branches, went into vertex mode, selected all the vertex mode, and well, actually here my thing was actually a bit broken, so I realized in this branch it was like very stretched, and so I went on this, and it was because of like the circle icon was breaking it, so I had to cut it, and then I did unfold again, which gave me this, which made the checkboxes like better. And then I did that for a couple of branches, and then once that was done, once all the things were properly done, I went on to the vertex mode, selected all of them, and did organize. Not organize, I pressed the layout, but there was like a lot more room could have been used in here. It was all like very like tight together, so I organized it my own way. So I did it this way to make it more organized, and then I chopped my whole tree, and the boxes were all perfectly fine and even. And then this allowed me, then after it was done, I deleted all type by history because I wasn't going to work on the tree anymore. It was all done. I also did freeze transformations, and yeah. Watching the YouTube video, I needed to, in order to texture this tree, I needed to assign it to a color. So I opened the Hypershade, which is this icon here. Then I give, I selected the tree and give it a Lambert, which appeared in here. And then I just colored the Lambert red and connected it to the Hypershade thing. Then once that was done, I went to file and exported it as an FBX. Then watching the YouTube video, I had to install ZBrush, which I was new to. I didn't know how to use at all, so I had to watch a couple of tutorials. But using ZBrush allowed me to add more detail into the tree. That because if I did this in Maya, it would be really difficult, and ZBrush makes it way easier. So using here, I made the color grey. Then I went into geometry and pressed divide 5 times, which made it like smooth instead of like it being very like pixelated here. Right, I divided it, which made it the tree very smooth looking. I then went to morph target and then soar MT, which soars like my original tree shape. I then had to use the alpha, which is like a brush, which I assigned as like a texture, which it created like dents into the tree. Then on the base relief, I made 2 tiles, two horizontal tiles and 2 vertical tiles, so 2 here and 2 here. Then I went on to masking and did mask by alpha, which is my alpha brush, and did mask by alpha, which gave me like this shape. And then, as you can see, there's like a detail in here, but it was like it wasn't like, there was no depth to it, so I went on to deformation and went on to inflate. I went on to the inflate and scaled it down, which brought a lot more like detail into the tree, and you can see it starts to look like a tree. But it was like missing these smooth edges, so I just had to keep experimenting with it until it was like done. So here I got it to all work fine. Then that added the detail. And then in here, I I've then exported this as an FPX and then inserted it to Adobe Substance 3D Painter. I was texturing the tree, so I also did the same thing as I did with the barrel. I freeze transformations and deleted all type by history to clear up unnecessary information and mess. So I exported the tree in Maya as a OBJ and did what I did before with the barrel. I just added it to Substance Painter. Next I did bake mesh maps and did exactly what I did with the barrel. Once I baked the mesh maps, I started applying the textures. I found the tree really hard to texture, but I did the best that I could. So I was experimenting with the smart textures, and the best texture I could find was the wood walnut texture, and I applied it to the tree. So for this tree, I wanted it to make it look like it's like a dead tree that's like being affected by like radio like action sort of thing. So it's like dead. So to do this, I wanted to add like black branches to make it look like it's been like hit by lightning and stuff, and it's just like really damaged tree. So to do this, I did another add fill. I applied the same texture again and brought another texture to my layers. And then in here, I clicked and just made the color, the texture black. And then I started painting the top parts of the branches with like a brush and just started like painting what I wanted to be black. So you see me doing it all around here. You see this is what I came up with the black branches. So after I did that, I went into the folder and started with the like wood fibers. I went into like the wood fibers, increased the height. So you can see when I increase the height, I was increasing like the density in the tree. I increased the roughness fully as well. So I did that. I also did it for what I did for the wood walnut and like in the folders I also did with this one as well. So once this was done, I needed to add more different textures around the tree, because in here it would be like a bright wood color instead of like the tree bark. So to do this, there was a perfect texture for this called Wood Chip Hull Nordic, but it suited perfectly for the tree. So I just selected the textures here, and that was it for the tree. I couldn't do much for the tree, but that was the best I could do. So I just exported it. I exported the textures by running it into my source images in my 3D modeling software, and I put template to Arnold AI standard because I'll be rendering it in Maya. Then size based on the texture, set size, and then I did export, which gives me all the like the height map, the base color map. It gives me like 5 different maps to apply into Maya. Um, Next I will be applying the textures in Maya.